No, I'm not specifically talking about that, but that can be done, and I'll just explain to you quickly how that can be done. What you're talking about is there's a difference between the active and the passive process, right? What you're talking about is a passive ad. Basically, the individual doesn't have to do anything to solicit that company. They're actually being solicited by that company, right? And you can't do that automatically. You can't just say, I want to send John an ad today, right? You can do that, however, if you have, and we see this with our clients who mainly are involved in the retail space, for example. We see this with, and this is, it's becoming very powerful in that in retail, anyone who knows anything about retail knows that Black Friday is an incredibly important day for anyone in the retail space, right? And they usually run these big doorbusters, and they have one or two products that they sell. Usually, they're loss leaders for the day, but they get the people in the door, and they know that if they have someone in the store, they're more than likely to buy a lot of other products too, just because they're there. So what the retailers are doing now in terms of using the power of mobile is that they're creating these online, basically it's an online coupon club, for a better word. But basically what happens is the person would come to the website and they would agree that they want to be followed, right? And now what the retailer can do is that since they know where you are geographically, they can send you an ad. So basically, they can make Black Friday any day because they can take any product, make it a loss leader for the day, and push it out to anybody who's in a certain geographical locations, for example, a 5-mile or 10-mile radius from their physical building. And then you would get this ad, and they would say to you that you must purchase this product for the discount. You can do so only until noon. And any time after that, it would go back to its original price, or it's while supplies last, et cetera.
But this geo-targeting that you were talking about, the mobile geo-targeting that you're talking about, I thought you were going in that direction.
Yes, so let me explain that in greater detail for you. The geo-targeting that I'm talking about is that we would have to, I'll give you an example, it's probably easier. We have a customer who does, they attend a trade show like this one. Once a year in Las Vegas, and it's always at the same time. And it happens to be towards the end of January, and the end of January happens to be a very important time if you're a football fan, right? And so one of the things that we thought of doing for them was basically, we know that when people travel to a convention, they have a certain number of hours that they're actually engaged in the convention, but they have a lot of other hours where they might be there's off time, whether they're sightseeing or they're taking advantage of the venue, or they're going back to their hotel and they're surfing the web to find out what's going on in the football world because they're a football fan and it happens to be just 1 week or 2 weeks before, a few weeks before the Super Bowl. So in this case, what we did was we said, we can reach the people who are attending that trade show because we know where the trade show is located. We know the zip code of that location, and we can then make sure that an ad, if you're an exhibitor at that trade show, for example, we can then send an ad to someone who is within that zip code if they're surfing through their mobile device or even on a computer too, but mostly for mobile. Actually, it would really only be for mobile if we're doing geo. Then we know we know what zip code they're in, and we can send them an ad. If they're checking out ESPN and they're looking at football scores, we'll send them an ad, and it just happens to be an ad from an exhibitor that they just left when they were in the convention hall, an hour ago. That's what we can do with geo. And so basically, the two differences are, in one case, you have to have the person agree to be followed by you. That's a little bit more of a little bit higher standard, a higher bar. But the other one, if they're actively searching or they're active, and that's why we use these ad networks and these different platforms, because they'll contract with 7, 8, 9, 10 different types of, and like I mentioned, it's very similar to cable TV, where you might contract with someone who then has different advertising contracts with different stations. So they might, if you do an advertising run, they might get your spot on a number of different stations. These mobile advertising companies have done the same thing with these different mobile sites. So when you contract with them, you then have your ads show on those sites, and they can control where your ad is shown based on the geolocation of that mobile customer. So that's where it becomes powerful. Okay, and I lost my page here. We can go to the next slide. Oh, you did already. Okay, good. You're one ahead of me. Okay. So I just want to recap, because I think we're pretty good on time here, right? We're just close to an hour. I just want to recap that one of the most important elements of designing the website and also of the mobile site is to know your target audience, but also you want to know your competition too. And one of the things that we definitely take into account when we're both redesigning or designing a website for our customers is to know who their competitors are and what are they doing. And it becomes even more important when we look at how they're marketing, what keywords are they using, and how are they getting people to their website. And if we do put in a keyword that we think is an industry-specific keyword, who else is coming up in Google on that first page? So we know who we need to, who do we need to put, we're basically going to be pushing them down when we're bringing ourselves up. But we also need to do this, and it becomes increasingly important if we're doing any type of pay-per-click marketing, because in some instances, keywords can be shared across different industries. And we might see that someone is, they're occupying a #1 position for a keyword, but they're not a competitor of ours. And the #1 positions tend to be expensive. When we're talking about $25, $30 a click in some cases, we might see that for a #1 position, but we might see $15 for a #2 position or a #3 position. And so if we go there and take a look and see who the competitors are, who are on those on Google with those using those keywords, and we find that they're not a competitor of ours, but they're spending $30 a click, well, we know that we don't necessarily need to do that. We can stay at $15 a click, and we'll still be #1 in our space, in our vertical space. So it's important to know your competition. In terms of putting all this together and determining if you're building a website, you're redesigning a website, if you're building a mobile site, if you're doing any marketing, you have to have some type of a budget. And usually what we recommend is that our clients also break out the budget so that they don't have just one lump sum that they're spending on everything. It's, I'm going to set aside a certain amount of money for the website, and that might include the website and the mobile web, and then a certain amount of money that I'm going to be spending on marketing, because the marketing tends to be a recurring effort, and you want to make sure that you think about it ahead of time, rather than some of the pitfalls that we see is that some clients will spend most of their budget building the website, and then they realize that they didn't leave anything to market it. And that's not a good situation, because you spent a lot of money on the website, and now you're not going to get any benefit out of building the website, because you'll have nobody coming in, because, as I said earlier, if you build it, they won't necessarily come unless you tell them to. So we do need to set aside funds for the marketing effort. And it's difficult to sometimes determine how much that is. We get that question from clients all the time. Well, how much money should I spend, or what should I spend on, for example, a pay-per-click campaign? And usually what we do first is we take a look at the different keywords that are important to their industry and determine what the costs are in the marketplace for those clicks. And one thing that I will tell you, and that we have found, is that in terms of pay-per-click marketing, and we've had a couple of, I'll give you another example. In the banking industry recently, we had a client who was, they had engaged us for all types of internet marketing, both pay-per-click, SEO, as well as traditional, what we call banner advertising, which I did not mention today, because if I got into all the different types, we would be here all day. And banner advertising is definitely something that's been on the decline over the last few years. And And it was evident in our example because this client really wanted to be, if you're from this area, there's a magazine, a newspaper rather in New Jersey called the Star Ledger. It's the largest and most popular newspaper in New Jersey, and they have an online website. They don't call it starledger.com for some reason, but they call it New Jersey or NJ.com. So this client wanted to advertise on NJ.com, and we did that along with their pay-per-click and SEO campaigns. And what we found ultimately was that the cost to them, because their ad would be showing on NJ.com if somebody went to, and unlike search engine marketing, banner advertising is a little bit different in that the customer is not putting in a keyword. They're looking at content. So they would be going, just as they would to any other newspaper, and they would be reading articles on certain material, and then they would see an ad on their screen for this client, and this client happened to help you with refinancing your mortgage. And so their ads were running in the real estate section, in the finance section. We tried to target it as best we could on NJ.com because it's not as easy to target when you're not putting in a keyword. And what we found, even though we were targeting as best we could, was that the cost per click to the customer was 5 times greater than what it was through pay-per-click marketing. And so we consequently terminated that after we showed them the proof, because if you can bring in 5 people to every one, then why would you continue that method of marketing? You wouldn't. And the other benefit was that we were still, because the better or the less expensive or the one that gave the greatest return on investment was the keyword-driven method. It enabled us to know that the end user was much more interested or much more likely to hire our client to help them with their mortgage than someone who had been reading an article on something else in the real estate section and just happened to click on this very nice looking ad that they saw. In terms of building the website and the mobile web, one really I think beneficial and great aspect of the digital space is that you can build in phases. You don't have to build everything in one shot. You can, and we encourage our clients, and we work with our clients to take a look and see what are the most important elements, what are the elements that we need right now, and what can we table for another day. Maybe we do it, implement it in stages. Maybe first phase is for the first 6 months, and then after that we can implement something else, and then maybe the following year we can add another module. So building in phases is important. Hiring a professional is, in our space, it goes without saying because we see everything. And in 16 years of building, I'm working with our clients with websites and now mobile web, we've seen when we have clients who have tried to do this on their own, or they've hired their neighbor's 16-year-old or college student. And we have had the unfortunate circumstance of trying to bail them out of those horrible situations. And because your website and your mobile web is really your face to the entire world, you probably want to make sure that you take the time to hire someone who knows what they're doing. And like I said before, because of some of the tools that are now on the market for content management, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a professional work with you every step of the way once the website is launched. They can help you build the website. They can help you launch the initial website. But because of the content management system that's in place, you can update the content or modify the text and go along without their help, as long as you're not obviously adding the second phase or another very large module. You can do a lot of this on your own. And the last thing is have fun, because it is a fun process, and too many people think of it as a chore, and when they think of it as a chore, they don't really get good results. So you definitely want to enjoy the process. And the other good thing about it is that it does help you really think about your business and think about how you can improve your business And if you take the time to think it through, it may bring about some things that you really hadn't thought of. And if you rush through it, you're not going to take advantage of that. And when we see that with a lot of our clients too, that oftentimes they through the process of putting the website together, they uncover something else that they hadn't thought about, and that it helps and may even take them in a totally new direction. And maybe it's that new direction that then brings in more customers and helps them with their revenue more so. Yes?
Do you have a slide for your contact information?
We do. We can go to the next slide. There we go. You're one slide ahead of us. And I thank you. Does anyone have any other questions for me? No, we're good, huh? Okay.